Monday. Good afternoon, John. How the heck are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on.
How'd Indy treat you?
It was good. It was productive, It's funny, when I first started going out there, I don't know, 10 years ago, a little bit more than that maybe, I thought it was all about the prospects and watching them, but then the more you go out there, the more you realize, no, it's more about what happens at night and the people you can talk to out at the bars and restaurants, and that's where you can find a lot of intel. And so, no, this was a good week. I wish I could come on here and tell you that there's going to be a bunch of aggressive moves from the Dallas Cowboys, and the fans should be really excited. This is going to be a completely different offseason, but I can't really deliver that. I would be lying.
Yeah, the all the air got let out of that all-in balloon, didn't it? It's just a dead on sight.
It did, and it's also just because if you know how Jerry Jones operates, this is such an on-brand thing for Jerry Jones to say all in, but also kind of couch it as, well, this is my version of all in, and my version of all in could be different than yours when, let's be honest, most people when he said all in are thinking, oh, this is going to be this super aggressive offseason like we've seen the last few years from whether it be the Rams or the Bucs or the Niners or the Eagles. But when he starts explaining a little bit more, you're like, no, that's not this isn't the same thing that those teams did.
Johnny, did you and the bro make it to Lawrence?
I'm a short distance outside of Topeka right now.
Okay.
I'm not quite there yet.
All right, man. Well, good luck. Have fun at that. No, like I said, no fan better than you of seeing basketball, sporting events, and all that. I'm excited you're getting to do that. You go to the combine. You're on the Jerry bus. You're hanging out. You're talking to people. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like that they're just like, it's just so status quo? It's like, well, why are you guys making such a big deal of all this? Do you get that feeling talking to them? Are they like surprised that we're all making such a big deal about this offseason so far?
Yeah, there are definitely some people that kind of laugh at the all-in thing from a sense of they believe that they've been all in every year with what they've done to build their roster. And they also, I think, find amusement from it because they know when Jerry says kind of a comment that kind of latches on, they know how it can be beat to death. And that's obviously what's happening with this all-in thing. Locally, nationally, Jerry finds these buzzwords that he knows will help keep us all talking about the Cowboys, which is what he likes. That's so on brand for Jerry. Off-brand Jerry would be like, hey, we're just going to keep doing this exactly the way we've been doing it, and we're going to get it done this way, no matter if it works or not. This is the direction we're going. We've been doing this, but he doesn't want to just kind of turn anything off. He wants you to kind of think, hey, maybe they are going to do something really aggressive. Maybe they are going to make a big time move that we can't see coming. But it's just like the more people you talk to, the less likely it sounds like that's the path that they're going. The thing that they're worried about is, let's not do anything that could jeopardize us being able to re-sign Dak, re-sign CD, and re-sign Micah.
So how do you think this does play out then with Dak? Because Jerry seemed to leave that door open as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to put a percentage on it, I think it's 50-50 right now that they get a new deal done or Dak plays this next season under the final year of his contract. I don't think you can lean one way or the other right now. I went to Indy thinking it would probably be maybe a little bit more 60-40. They're going to get something done here. This will, get Dak's contract done, allow you to be a little bit more of a player in free agency. Leaving Indy, I don't get that sense. I think that this thing could be dragged out to the very end. And when I say the very end, I'm talking free agency next year where the Cowboys could be in a position where they might be having to bid against other teams to keep Dak Prescott. And if that happens, that's obviously risky. But I'm not ruling out them taking that risk. They would prefer to get an extension done with Dak. They want Dak to be here. They like everything that Dak's done. They believe he has a lot of great football ahead of him. But it sounds like if they can't meet on something, that the Cowboys are willing to allow him to play that final year out.
So do you think it's 50-50 that he eventually leaves?
I don't. And the reason why I say this is because I think it's hard to leave the Dallas Cowboys. If you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and they're offering you a competitive salary, I don't see him leaving. I understand that I've heard a lot of fans say this. He's probably just so fed up with the organization, and I get that. But there's so much more that comes with the Cowboys off the field in terms of endorsements and popularity and faces of the league. I guess I'll just put it out to you like this. I don't know if Tony Romo has the job he has right now if he spent his whole time as the Detroit Lions quarterback. There's just things about being with that Cowboys brand that make it very attractive. There's a reason why we go out to the combine, and it seems like any prospect you talk to, there's somebody in their family, if not them, that grew up a Cowboys fan. And so I think it would be tough as long as they're not even giving him anything competitive. As long as it's close, I think he would stay in Dallas.
John, were you surprised the news with Tyron Smith?
Not really. Just because I thought that for him to stay, he'd have to take something somewhat team friendly.
Sure.
But I see, and I say that because he is a guy that his contracts up to this point with the Dallas Cowboys, going all the way back to 2011 when he was drafted, have been pretty team friendly, and so that's the reason why I was like, I feel like going into last week in Indy, I felt like Tyron Smith will play for the Cowboys or nobody else. If they didn't offer him something he liked, I thought he'd retire. So maybe that still happens, but when he was healthy last year, he was a good player for those 13 games. And so, hey, if somebody else, preferably a Super Bowl contender like a Kansas City, is going to offer him something, that makes a lot of sense. I just don't see him playing one more year for a bottom-of-the-barrel franchise somewhere just to make the money. I don't get the sense that Tyron would do that. I think if he was assigned somewhere else, it would be because they have a great shot at getting a ring. But this also could be leverage to try and get the Cowboys to get something done, because that news came out on Saturday, and Jerry said the night before that they were still working through things. So I'm not completely shutting the door on the Tyron Smith return.
Okay. Do you think Tyler Biadasz or Michael Gallup will be on the team in 2024?
I don't. I don't think either of them will. I think Gallup, though, where Gallup's at now is he's getting paid to be basically like a number 2 receiver, and he's probably 4 on their depth chart now. I think he's fallen below Jalen Tolbert. And really out at the combine, I think you heard a lot about from people is that they really like Jalen Brooks too, and they believe they can get more out of Kevontae Turpin. So all of those things make Michael Gallup certainly not your number 2, and now he's 3, 4, 5, and for what he's making, unless he was taking some major pay cut, which I don't see why he would do that, I don't see him coming back, or I see them parting ways with him. And then Biadasz, I think, is very similar to Connor Williams' thing. Like, yeah, if it's a competitive rate from the Cowboys, I think he'd prefer to stay with the Cowboys, but I can just see another team out there offering him something better. And I think if that is the case, you could see center being between Hoffman or Bass, or somebody that they draft like they did with Biadasz, a 3rd, 4th round pick, and kind of put that player out there. Maybe it's a 1st round pick. Maybe it's the kid out of Duke. Maybe that's the route they go. Going into the combine, I thought the favorite was an offensive lineman to be the 24th overall pick, and there's nothing that's happened to make me think differently. I think they'll lean offensive tackle, but an interior offensive lineman in the 1st round wouldn't surprise me either.
John, where are you at right now with Mike McCarthy and his attitude that going into the season with all that's kind of ahead of him with the being on the last year of his contract? Where do you think he is? Is it still all systems go? Does he feel a little bit slighted? Is he anxious? Where do you think he is right now if you had to guess?
I don't know if it's just time, helps change people or make them feel a little bit more comfortable, but the way Mike McCarthy was with reporters at the Mike Zimmer press conference, I felt like, there was a little bit of that maybe some angst, I guess. I don't know if that's the best word to use there, but when we got a chance to, because he didn't go out to the combine this year, a group of reporters that did go out to the combine got to meet with them the Friday before at the Star for a couple hours and just, spend time with him off the record. And he seemed like a guy that I didn't feel like he was any different than the Mike McCarthy that I'd been around the previous, 3 years. So I don't know that, he feels like there's a ton of pressure on him. I know he really likes the idea of working with Mike Zimmer. And maybe that's something that because of their experience going against each other when they were in the NFC North, maybe that factors in. But, I just really didn't get a sense that he's real worried about all of that. And I think a lot of it has to do with his long tenure that he had in Green Bay. He's won a Super Bowl. I just think he just has come across to me as someone that's very confident in what he's been able to do, building the 12-win seasons each of the last 3 years. And that, let's be honest, they could win 17 games. And unless they have success in January, whether he had a long-term contract or not, I think he knows that, it's probably this would be his last season unless they finally make that run in January.
Jon Machota with us. What do they want with Trey Lance?
I think they want him to compete with Cooper Rush for the backup job, and I'm sure that they would love for him to look great, whether it be to possibly trade him to another team, or maybe he's used his leverage against Dak next offseason. That seems like that's far away for me. I just think that Trey Lance is still kind of green in terms of handing the reins over to him. I think he'd have to look great in the preseason and in any of his work he got in during the regular season. I just think that would be a big stretch. When they made the move for him, I know a lot of people talked about that potentially being some leverage with Dak, and I didn't believe it at the time, and I don't really right now. But, hey, a few weeks out in Oxnard, maybe he looks the part. Maybe the preseason he gets a lot of work, and he looks like he's taken some big steps. So I think that's on the table, but I think at first he's got to beat out Cooper Rush to be the backup before you could even go down that road. I certainly don't expect anybody in the Cowboys organization to talk about Lance versus Dak publicly, but if Trey Lance looked great and Dak's on the final year of his deal, that could be a factor for sure, but I just think he's still got a ways to go.
How real do you think the interest is in a couple of your Florida State Seminoles and Keon Coleman, the receiver, and Trey Benson, the running back?
The Coleman one's tough. I mean, body size and what he does obviously fits this receiving core, but the Trey Benson one is just, I feel like, is a perfect fit for the Cowboys. He kind of like Ezekiel Elliott, where he's the bigger body, but he's also quick. He can break big runs, and you wouldn't have to pay, a fourth overall pick like you did for Zeke. Maybe you get him the second or third round. I think he of all the Florida State guys, I think it would be the best fit for the Cowboys. And from what he said at the Combine, he was one of their, formal meetings, and he said that he liked the way that, what they showed him. He felt like what they did on offense and planned to do on offense is similar to what he did at Florida State. So of the backs that are out there, I like him the most just because I've seen him to play the most, and then I've seen the Cowboys play, and they just seem like a good fit for each other.
Yeah, let me remind you of another Florida State kid that didn't run really well and had a really long career at wide receiver, Anquan Bolden.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, if you're getting Anquan Bolden and you can get that at 24, that would be
Well,
fantastic.
I was just talking about with Coleman. Coleman didn't run all that great in this in the Combine.
Well, did you know the relation to CeeDee Lamb?
No, I didn't know that either. I didn't know that at all.
I thought it was just like, how sometimes, if you're close with another, a friend or something like that, you're like, oh yeah, that's my cousin or whatever like that. But no, I guess they're actually really cousins. So yeah. I had no idea of that going in. Never heard that on any game broadcast. Never heard that from anybody that any of my friends that have followed Keon Coleman who was at Michigan State. No, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's just, I tell you what, the film of Coleman is, he's a hell of a player. I just keep watching the film. We'll get him faster when we go to Tallahassee. We'll get him running faster. I'll take care of you there, John.
Okay, so are you fine with wide receiver in the first round?
No, I think if they get wiped out, I think that's a possibility.
Based on this offseason, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think if they get wiped out, they might consider that. I don't. We went through offensive tackles today, some offensive tackles that should be there, and they'll probably have a couple of centers there that they surely could look at, though.
My thing is, I love the training camp videos.
Yeah. And
Keon Coleman with not only Keon Coleman, but Keon Coleman catching touchdown passes from Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Like that's something that the fans would be craving,
Yeah.
So that would be kind of an interesting thing, more so than an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Dak throwing 50-50 balls up to, Keon Coleman, things like that. So for me, sure. I don't know if that sets you up best to win this season, especially if you don't have Tyron. I feel like left tackle is a big need, and they draft offensive linemen so well, and so I always factor that in as well.
John, do you have a nickname on record?
For myself?
Well, shoot. Do your buddies have one for you, or is there one that resonates in your own mind that you wish people would use?
No. It just people in Dallas, like other writers, call me Matches.
Matches.
Short for former Machota. But it's funny because I moved down to Dallas when I was 28. And up until that point, no one ever called me that. But then I got down and started going out to Valley Ranch and covering the Cowboys. And it just kind of, Tim McMahon started saying it, and then it just kind of stuck. And so, that's the only one.
That's what's in my phone when it comes to Johnny Matches.
Johnny Matches.
Johnny Matches.
I love it. It's a great name, John. Appreciate your hard work on this. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.